Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so I saw a video earlier today. I only watched the first few minutes of it because it was kind of depressing. But there was I think the title or the mention, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was a really important subject for a lot of people on this channel. And some of you have you're maybe past like 90% of this stage that I'm going to talk about. Okay, so the music will go down in about 1 minute. Okay, so the guy's video, it was talking about when you awaken, how it's kind of a depressing, or what's the word I'm looking for? You know what? I just grabbed his video. He's talking about how you lose all your motivation and your drive and purpose after a spiritual awakening. So let me start this video out with this. So I went through a spiritual awakening when I was 28. To me, that was a spiritual awakening. Now, what society and a lot of empaths are going through now in the last 5+ years, it's different than what I went through. And I do think they are two completely separate things. And so I'm going to explain both. I'm going to try to do mine shorter this time and then get more into what most of you are probably going through or what you've gone through for the last 4+ years. Now, when I say mine, that was when I was 28 years old. They say that's the same time Jesus went through his. Because shortly after, he came back from the East. Now, the East was, like India or East India or Burma, Southeast Asia. Because you have to understand, he was in Bethlehem in the Middle East, and he went east from there. Technically, if you want to say what did the Bible say, he said he came from the East. In other words, he came back from the East. So what's east of the Middle East? And every 7 years you have like this cycle. So the fourth year is 28, the seventh cycle is 28 years. And then the next fourth one is when you turn 56, which is what I am right now. These are really huge, important cycles. So what happened with me, okay, here's the difference. I went through a phase of meditation, and I mean a real deep phase of meditation where I had meditated for years and years and years. At that point, I'm guessing it was about 8 or 9 years approximately. Now, I'd meditated for a minimum of not the first year, it was about an hour a day, and then I started bumping it up about 6 months later to about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then I even got more extreme than that, till I got extremely extreme to where I was meditating a minimum of 2 hours every day in the morning. And then on the weekends, I would do it for 10, 12, 16 hours, etc. So essentially it got to the point where I didn't even go to the gym. I did my work, and then I came home and I meditated, and then I went to sleep. I woke up, I meditated, whether I was going to school or going to work or whatever it was that year. Then I'd come back and I'd meditate. So at one point I stopped going to the gym for about 2 or 3 years. And that was the first time in my life where I ever did that. Now, my awakening was caused essentially, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but it was caused because of the actions I was taking, okay? Whether the spirit watched it and said, okay, yeah, he's ready, he wants to wake up. I got to a place of absolute clarity is what happened. And that's when you pop. Without realizing what I was doing, at the very, very end, the last 2 weeks, I meditated for, I say 14 days, but it may have actually been longer. I think it might have been 21 days. I'm not 100% sure, but I definitely remember it was 14+ days. No food at all. I didn't even do salt. I just drank some water. When I say no food, I mean nothing. So essentially what happened was I was meditating all day, 14 plus 16 hours a day, and I remember there came a point where I was completely clear, I was completely calm, yet I still had this sense that something wasn't there. I think the anxiety came back one day, so I forget, because that's why I was meditating, was to get rid of it. And whatever it was that upset me, I just broke down and cried, and I cried out to God, and I begged God to come inside me, and to come inside and to take away this anxiety, and to replace it with love, or your love, etc. And it was the most, here's the thing, it didn't happen right away. I did something on accident, which I think is the goal of following rules, how to say, tit tat, how do you say it? So when you're trying to be perfect and follow the rules and do this and do that, and it still didn't work out. And what happened was, after all those years of not just the meditation years, but when I was a kid, reading the Bible multiple times every day, going to church 2-3 times, going to youth group and this group and that group, and I just got to a boiling point where I just broke down and I cried, and I remember looking up at God, and I begged him to come into me and take away the fear and anxiety, and it just wasn't happening. And what happened was, I was pushed over the edge, and I gave up. I remember I cried out to God and said, "That's it. I quit. I give up." Now, mind you, tears were streaming, and I was crying, I would say pretty hysterically at that point. Not hysterically, but it was like I just gave up. It was like, whether you realize it or not, but most of you are trying to hold on to this, trying to be perfect and trying to be a good person. And it's this weight that you've carried so long. You still, your body, your emotions absolutely feel the weight of trying to be perfect and to appease God and all that stuff. But you got so used to it, how do I explain this? You kind of forgot you were carrying it, yet you felt the weight of it emotionally and spiritually and energetically every day of your life. So whether it's a yoga master, Jesus out in the middle of the desert and drew a circle with the sand and said, "I'm not leaving this," and that's that's what I did. I literally remember saying, "God, I'm not going to quit until you give me, this peace, until I get to that space, etc., etc." Like, I was like, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to eat any food. I'm going to achieve this. And for the first time in my life, I quit. Nothing worked. Everything I did my whole life, and I remember crying out, and I just said, "I don't care. I quit. Nothing's going to work." And I remember I went to sleep. Now, I didn't realize it probably even till weeks later, months later, maybe even a year later. But when I gave up, I felt this peace that I had never felt before in my life. And I remember going to bed, and I was like, "God, I feel so good." And it was like I felt so good, yet I felt like I was doing something wrong. But now listen closely, I just didn't care. Because I gave up. And I knew God would be disappointed, yet I also at the same time felt like, oh, I'm going to sleep so good. And I did. I fell asleep almost instantly. And I slept deeper. It was like there was nothing. There was no spiritual connection, no spiritual communication. There was just sleep. Now, when I woke up, everything was different. I'm going to go really quick through this because I want to get to the second part, because I did go through the second part along with you guys as well. So I wake up, and I remember looking around slowly, like the colors, the walls, the ceiling, the pattern of my comforter, everything was different. I remember looked down the hallway into the kitchen, the bathroom sink, and the mirror, like everything was different. Nothing was the same. It's like the visual, it was just different color, different lighting, different everything. So the one blessing that I got was, I remember I looked at, first, but when I walked to the bathroom, I don't remember if this was in bed and I repeated, but I definitely remember over the bathroom sink, I looked at the back of my hands, and I was like, when did I get all these scars and all these, wrinkles, and like I had aged, I don't know, 12 years or something. I looked at my palms like, wow, when do my hands look like that? I'm telling you, it was different. Now, here's what it was. Unconsciously, just like a computer has a history and a cache, our brain has the same thing. So the reason why computers do that is to make it faster, to pull up a website that you looked up before and you get it right away. But if it's changed and you haven't cleared your history or your cache, you're going to pull up the memory that you have in your computer, not what's actually out there in the live internet world. So a lot of you are unconsciously still doing this search inside your computer of the way it was in 1985 or 1979 or whenever, and you really think, oh, that's the way that this is, or that's the way life is, and it's not at all. Like, it's completely changed. So this literally was a history and cache clearing session, and I started seeing things for the way they were for the first time in probably over a decade, probably since I was a little kid. Now, at the time, I was 28. Now, here's what's going on. When I do NLP work with you, especially energy healing, we are clearing your history, we are clearing your cache, we are cutting cords and disconnecting from negative people, negative memories, negative experiences. Therefore, you can get a fresh look at it. So now, I remember looking in the mirror. I'll make this real quick and I'll go into one more piece and that's it. I looked in the mirror and I remember looking at my face going, I don't know if I'm a good looking person. Because I had always heard that I was ugly and I was treated like I was ugly. So I always thought I was ugly. So I remember I looked up into my eyes and my eyes were so blue at that moment. And I remember thinking, I don't know, and I think I said it, I don't know if I'm a good looking guy, but my eyes are beautiful. And for some reason, something inside my heart and chest kind of wiggled, like it was like a tickly, happy, joyful feeling. It's like, if there was one thing that I knew, my eyes were beautiful, and that's all that mattered to me. And essentially, as I look back, I fell in love with myself. Now, I don't mean an ego-based, self-centered, narcissistic, in other words, I don't mean an egotistical way, like in a very linear, narrow, small, focused way. I mean in an open-hearted, expanded, genuine love for oneself, which is a very healthy thing to do. Now, I'm going to get to the secret that I already told you. Like, well, what happened? Like, well, whenever you go through this trial and you put yourself through it, is you do everything in your power to heal, to wake up, to become spiritual, to have this connection with God, that for some reason now at the time when I did it, that 14 plus days of meditation, I didn't really do it on purpose. It just kind of was at a point where God, I can't do this anymore, and so I'm going to meditate and I'm going to find a way out. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but it was years later. I was reading the Bible, like, oh, wait a minute. This is the same thing that Jesus did when he went out into the desert or the wilderness and he drew a circle around himself and says, I'm not leaving here until. Now, that awakening was a really, really empowering, positive, uplifting, exciting, renewal, refreshing, enthusiastic, awakening about life. Like, life became brand new. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't necessarily all sunshine and rainbows or however you say that, because the thing is, that awakening, I saw both the good and bad in the world. Like, it wasn't like, oh, everything's beautiful, it's only love. Like, no, it's like, I also saw, like, wow, there's some mean people and there's some bad things in the world. Like, I saw both. And one of the things that, other than the positive stuff was, I realized, I remember saying, like, everything's a lie. It's all, like, everything is made up. Every rule that you were taught, every belief, every, school says, this is the way it is. Well, it's because they made that up and we agreed to play by those rules. But when I started to realize, I was like, everything is made up. Everything is a lie. And I remember I was so concerned about this. I really wanted to talk to someone. I called my friend Greg and everything's a lie. And he's like, what do you mean everything? I go, dude, everything is a lie. And so it would take another hour to explain just that one point, but it was like I started to realize, how do people function? It's not even real. Everything is a lie. Here's the interesting thing. I remember driving out of the parking lot of the apartments I lived in at the time, and I took a right turn really slowly. Now, normally I go to the left because it's how you actually get out of the neighborhood and go to the highway or to the stores. But I took a really slow right, and I was going slow, and another car was coming my way, a car I've never seen before. But I was like, wait, I think that's my friend Tim. Now, I couldn't see him. He was too far away. And he starts going slow, and we're creeping up. I'm like, did you get a new car? He's like, yeah. And so he's like, Michael, what the hell's going on? I'm like, wait, are you going through it too? He's like, yeah, it's like I'm waking up, but I don't know why or how I know that I'm waking up. And that was the thing. When I woke up, I just kept saying, God, I'm awake, I'm awake. But I didn't even really know, like, well, how do I know that I'm awake? So about a year later, I bumped into Tim again, and he completely goes, yeah, I don't remember talking to you that day. I don't remember anything about being awake. I'm like, you don't remember? I go, Tim, I go, we sat there in our cars for like 15 minutes. He goes, nope, I don't remember. So some people go back to sleep. Now here's the deal. Tim didn't believe in God. He never went to church a day in his life. He might have went once to appease a friend or just to check it out, but he didn't believe in any of that at all. So the secret is, once you go through this, you try everything and you want God to like forgive you and to heal you, and like, you want to get rid of your fear or whatever it is, you just quit. You give up. It's like, you remember what I said early on? Like, I remember said, I go, God, I give up. I quit. And I felt bad and I felt ashamed almost. I didn't really feel, I didn't care anymore. And I went to bed, and that's the secret. Once you truly let go of trying to be a good person, trying to hold on to God, trying to hold on to this, what's the word I'm looking for? This purity way of being. Once you let go, you open up. See, meditation was teaching me how to let go, because that's the whole thing. Like, you start think, you just let it go. It'll spin out. The minute you stop clinging to it, the minute you stop trying to push it down or control it, it disappears. It slowly gets quiet, and it literally fades away until you have nothingness. So that's what meditation did for me. It allowed me to continue finding that space of nothingness, and you completely let go. You don't try at all, and that's when the door opens, and that's when the peace comes in. Write these words down: allow, let go, and notice, and be aware of. That's it. Now start doing that. Just allow people to be in their own space. Allow yourself to be in your own space. Allow your emotions to be in their own space. Like, don't try to control them. Just notice them. Have an awareness of them. So write that down too. Have an awareness of your emotion, of your emotions, and have an awareness of the people around you. Don't connect with them. Don't go linear. Just have your awareness around your own body, and then notice other people in their own space. Now, there's a whole series of grounding and emotional grounding internal awareness techniques where I show you how to do that with your own parts that you need to heal inside yourself, okay? And once you get really good with that, you, instead of clinging to people, locking your forehead onto other people's forehead, even across the room, you have this expanded awareness around you. So instead of connecting to people forehead to forehead, or throat chakra to throat chakra, or heart to heart, or solar plexus to solar plexus, like this is like you're trying to control someone. It's like you're locking on. There's bondage, like there's this rope or this whatever tying you together. This is not healthy. You need to let go, allow, and just notice the people around you. And the way you begin learning that is by having an open awareness of yourself, by noticing yourself, your heart, your energy, noticing what muscles are tight, what are loose, noticing your emotions, and listen closely, having an awareness of them. When you learn how to do that, your energy will expand out like this. See, during the sessions one-on-one, we will slowly start moving and working towards one understanding, one technique, and then another, and you begin to open up. Now, part of this is what you're going to do. It doesn't show it, but you drop your rooting cord all the way down into the earth. Most people will connect horizontally, from body to body, face to face, forehead to forehead, heart to heart, throat to throat. You don't do that. You want to drop it vertically down inside the core of the earth and connect with people there. And this is how you connect with everyone. And at the same time, up here on the top of the planet, we can come and go and walk around anywhere on the planet freely. without being controlled, without having an attachment with someone like a rope connecting and holding it onto us, and vice versa. Now, because of all my meditation, it allowed me, like, okay, when I went through this awakening, I was like, holy, like, I was doing all this energy healing with people and all this. I mean, I was reading people's minds. I was telling them what they're thinking. I was saying, hey, here's what's going to happen. And I had a ton of, well, I don't know if I say a ton, I'd say about a half a dozen witnesses that saw all of this, like, firsthand. So it was an amazing experience. It lasted 6 months, and there was a lesson every night when I went to bed. So it was a constant download, and it was very conscious, like just like reading these letters almost. It was this clear, almost this clear, and it was very, when I woke up, it was like the lesson was completely clear to me. And once again, it was a very, very positive experience. Now, what we've all been going through for the last 5+ years, some people woke up a little bit earlier, a little bit later, to what we call narcissist abuse. But it wasn't just waking up to narcissist, it was also waking up to our own, not limitations, but yeah, but it's one of the words, but almost like lack of self-awareness or lack of realizing, like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that, or I didn't realize, oh, I was lied to. That's not the way we're supposed to be handling things. A lot of things that we were taught in church, such as, basically if someone hurts you, look the other way, forgive them for this or that. But they're the different, okay, now you've heard this word, but nobody really connected, or no one taught it to you in a way that you could really understand. This also comes with a level of discernment, and I really believe this whole narcissist abuse awakening, and when you got your heart ripped out, you got hurt really bad, you suddenly gained discernment really, really fast. Like, one of the things I really, really, really began to realize now, and the funny thing is, like, well, this is in the Bible, but I didn't really understand what it really meant, is there are humans and then there's something else. So let's say someone gets their feelings hurt, or they misunderstood you and they lashed out at you and they were mean to you and they hurt you back, only to realize later on, like, oh shit, I'm so sorry, I misunderstood, I thought you said this and I thought you meant that, oh, you didn't do that, oh, I'm so sorry. Versus someone who does this stuff on purpose to purposely destroy you mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually and physically. Because before this awakening, we had so many things taught to us through the church from narcissists that are in the church. I'm not saying all people are narcissists, but narcissists have placed themselves in all kinds of church positions. And some of the teachings are just completely either taught wrong, they were purposely mistranslated and were not translated correctly, such as fear the Lord your God. Like, and you get Christians going, do you fear God? And I'm like, oh no. I love God with all my heart and with all my soul. And they will go, of course. So one of the things we realized is we're not supposed to hang around with demons, which are narcissists. I mean, it says so in the Bible. Like, we're not supposed to be around them. And so what happens is we get taught, like, we'll just forgive people of whatever they do. Just, you got to forgive everyone all the time. No. There's a difference between when someone made a mistake because they were hurt emotionally or they misunderstood versus someone who planned it, pre-planned it, prepped it, got people involved, and they just destroyed you, and they did it on purpose. That's the difference. So it's one thing to forgive someone, it's another thing to give someone a chance who is purposely trying to hurt you, and that's where discernment kicks in. Like even the word, like, I suddenly understood what that word meant. Like, oh, like I had discernment. Like, oh, this, like the slightest little things, like, oh, this person is a mean person, or this person's evil, or this is not a good person to be around. Now, I'm not saying it when you first go into the what I call the Great Wall of China of isolation that you automatically have discernment. Like, you just shut down because the thing is, like, you realize, like, wait a minute, I can't tell the difference between the good people and the bad people. And it's a very scary, dark time. And so you basically go to the store, you go home, that's it. You don't socialize with people, you don't exchange numbers. Like, nope, not doing that. And you basically isolate yourself. You go to work, you come home, and even at work, you suddenly don't talk to people like you used to. You cut conversations short. And what you're doing is you're really now here's what it is. It's kind of a dark, painful, lonely time, but it's a very, very, very important, powerful development time, because what you're finally doing for the first time in your life is you are connecting with you. You're connecting with yourself. Your left brain is connecting with your right. You're connecting internally. You're finally starting to listen to yourself and look to yourself for the answers, or what do I want to do? What do I think about this versus, well, hey, Sarah, what do you think about this? Like all of a sudden, that whole idea of trying to appease people or make people happy, it kind of gets put on the side, but your whole life, your whole thing is that, well, I've got to fix people. I've got to help people. I've got to make them happy. All of a sudden that comes to a full halt because you realize a lot of those people have hurt you really, really bad, but you don't know why yet. So one of the biggest lessons we have to learn is we really have to learn to listen to ourselves. We really have to learn to listen and feel our own intuition inside our body, inside our gut, inside our heart. So it takes years to do this. Like you'll go through this isolation phase. For a lot of people, it lasted up to 5 years, and then you slowly, maybe 4 years, and like last year, January, there was a shift. I suddenly, boom, like I felt better, and things were like, I can't explain it. I wasn't tired anymore. And I was going out, I was kind of meeting people like, whoa, what the hell am I doing? Whereas before, you just meet anyone, exchange, give them your number. Hey, okay, come on over, or let's go to a party. And you didn't even know them. So you may meet people and share things like, whoa, wait a minute. And then when you walk away, like, wait, I don't even know that person. Like, holy shit, what if they're a narcissist? So you're still kind of figuring this out. Now here's kind of the weird, it's a very good thing, but it really doesn't seem that way. It's very diabolical. It's like what's happening is, number one is you are connecting to you on the inside, which is what you were always supposed to do and be. But here's the discombobulating thing, like suddenly you're not attached, like literally energetically or emotionally attached to objects and items and things and people, and oh, well, that's my husband, that's my wife, or that's my mom, or that's my brother, or that's my best friend. Before it's like, yeah, your best friend hurt you, but that's your best friend. You got to overlook that because that's what you were taught in church, and yet they've been hurting you for decades, right? And so it's not even that. What it is you are starting to connect with you, and what that causes is you're not connected to all these external things outside of yourself. That's really what I'm trying to say, and that's the discombobulating part. On the one hand, intuitively, like you can feel it, like I'm supposed to be connecting with me. I'm supposed to be spending time with me. I'm supposed to like bringing my awareness inside my heart, my chest, my solar plexus, and my belly. Like I'm supposed to kind of like, well, what's going on here? Like why am I feeling this, and etc. Like you're reconnecting with yourself, and what happens is you're slowly letting go of the external world. And that's the discombobulating part. On the one hand, you're like, yeah, I don't really care if I lose my car. I don't really care if I'm trying to think like you don't care about money as much. You don't care about achieving your goals as much, like because you're becoming very, very content with just connecting with yourself and being with yourself. You're not so worried about what people think about you anymore, or think about the car you drive, or I'm trying to think what else. Like you're not focused on them. Okay, well, what do you think? What do you think? Like that's getting cut. That's getting severed and disconnecting from you, because you're not really doing anything. You're just dropping down inside and going, well, what do I think about this now? So what happens is all of a sudden, all these things that you were taught, like college is everything, getting a doctorate degree or a university degree is everything, and doing this is everything, getting married and having kids and having a corporate job, and and now you're just like, yeah, I don't really care. It's not like you fight against it. It's just like everything you were taught suddenly isn't that important anymore. So it's like it's literally like, imagine having a rope from your elbow, both wrists, both shoulders, and around your waist, and there's all these connections, ropes or strings that connect to your car, connect to your house, connect to your bank account, connect to this one, university or profession and connected to your friends and this person over here who, who hardly ever talks to you, or you don't even agree with them at all of a sudden you just don't, it's not that you're like against them or you don't care about them. It's just like, yeah, you're totally okay if they live their life the way they live their life, because now you're comfortable living your life the way you want to live your life. Like something, it's discombobulated because you feel like, well, I don't feel connected out here anymore, yet I feel really good inside. So the whole Great Wall of China, or the isolation phase, is when you're bringing your own thoughts back inside and you're starting to think about what you think about versus what other people think about. You're starting to bring your awareness back inside. You're starting to bring your energy back inside, and this is the energetic connection that you've always been looking for, even though you didn't know what it was that you were actually looking for. You were looking for you, and it's not out there, it's inside. On the one hand, you feel like you're falling apart, but as you go further along the journey, you start to realize, like, wait, you're not falling apart. The pieces of the puzzle are beginning to fall into place. Everything is starting to make sense. And instead of being so focused on perfection or getting to the point, you realize it's not about perfection. It's not about the point at all. It's about the bigger picture. It's about the greater purpose. See, a lot of times people will buy a car not realizing, well, what was my purpose behind buying this car? It's because I wanted to have fun. I wanted to enjoy life more, yet the car brought greater burdens. It brought stress. It was high car payments and insurance payments. And then what if I crash it? What if it gets scratched? And, so all of a sudden this thing that was supposed to be fun becomes a burden. It becomes, a jail cell. So overall, yeah, you do go through a time of darkness, and it seems uncomfortable. It's very lonely, because it's the first time in your life where instead of running to your friend or your family member, your parent, or someone like a pastor to say, well, what do I do? What do you think? Like, what's the right thing? You stop that, because every time you turn to someone, they give you you realize they've been giving you the wrong answer. Because their answer is not your answer. Your answer is your answer for your life. And you're beginning to realize this. So you're going through a deep phase of doing the deep dive of, who am I? What do I believe? What do I think? Like, how do I want to deal with this situation? See, because before it's almost like group think of like, well, what do my friends think? What do my especially family? Like, it's like you're so hard to break. Well, this is the way I was raised. This is because a lot of those beliefs you actually have kind of locked in, and yet you're going, but I don't really believe that, and that starts to arise, and you start to kind of disagree with these things that you were taught, you learned at a young age. Like, yeah, but I don't think that's right, and so you're starting to break the mold. So you start to let go of everything. And this is what Jesus meant when he says, let go of your goods and let go of your things, because don't let them control you. You start to realize you can own something without letting it own you, without letting it stress you out, without letting, and all of a sudden life becomes fun. And these things, instead of, okay, don't be attached. So instead of being attached to things, well, they're just there for you to use to add to the enjoyment of your life, versus I have to have this to be happy. Do you see the difference? So instead of having to have this car and this house and this relationship or this certain person who looks a certain way, you start to go, wait a minute, like, this isn't making me happy. So instead of having to make all the money to get that thing, suddenly you're like, well, wait a minute, I don't even like the job that I have. Like, you just took that job because it could afford the things that you wanted, and yet it made you absolutely miserable. Because you're doing something to make money, not because you absolutely loved it. Now, I'm not saying don't make money now. I'm going to do a complete 180 degrees here. So instead of doing work that you absolutely love, that you can't wait to wait. I remember, God, when I was younger, there's a couple things in my life that I couldn't wait to get up to go running 7 miles a day, doing 300 push-ups, 300 sit-ups, going to boxing practice, kickboxing practice. Like, I couldn't wait for that. So you start letting go of things such as people that you surrounded yourself with, yet you realize like they just hurt you, they cut you down. It was this constant competition. A lot of us, you let go of a lot of people in your lives that were very, very narcissistic, and you became very lonely. You're like, well, I pretty much got rid of everybody. You went through the purging. You got rid of a lot of people, you let go of a lot of things, and you lost your motivation for making money. You lost your motivation for suddenly owning things. Suddenly it wasn't that important. It wasn't, because it was pain. It wasn't fun. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't joy. It wasn't something that inspired you and it made you want to get up in the morning. So let's take my work right now, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy. I do it all the time. I mean, I'm meet a stranger, somewhere at the Golden Gate Bridge or in Kersey Field or something. They have a problem. Boom, let's do phobia cure. Boom, let's reframe that. Let's anchor that. I love what I do. I went into the city today. I went to a coffee shop. I'm reading books on NLP. I'm not getting paid to do this. I do it because I love it. And because of that, I make more money now than I've ever made in my life. And all of a sudden, things are starting to pick up. Things are turning around. It's because I'm doing something that I love to do. I would literally do this without getting paid. And for a long time, I did. Like with any business, there are ups and downs. And I went through a huge down period for 3+ years, but I don't care. It's like, even if I had to go work another job, I'm still going to be doing this on the weekends or, with my friends or whatever. And eventually I'm going to come back around to this full steam ahead, which is where I'm at again. I never once dived into this going, oh, that's a great way to make money. No, because there's a lot of sacrifice and it's a huge risk. A lot of people don't know what it is. Like, what do you do? I even tried to, Armand, the coffee shop guy, I've explained it to him. Even in Russian, you can do the translate thing on your cell phone. He goes, I don't quite understand what you do. So I will tell you one thing that I've learned over the years. I've always dove into things that I love, like sports, boxing, kickboxing, or art, or music, singing, choir. It's because I love it. Like I can't not do it. And so that's where I put my focus. And I will tell you one thing. If you get into a sport like boxing or kickboxing where you're getting kicked and punched in the face, I promise you, if you don't thoroughly enjoy that sport and it fascinates you with everything in every fiber in your body, you're not going to be good at it because you're going to be like, yeah, you're not going to put much into it. And if you don't put much energy, effort into that sport, yeah, you're kind of screwed. That's not a smart thing to do. You will always make a lot more money in the long run doing what you love. Even if you have down times, it won't stop you. And the reason being is because you put a lot more effort, energy, and focus and time into it because you love doing it. Things that you don't love doing, you kind of do the bare minimum. You just get by because you're not excited about it. So you're going through this purging where you're letting go of friends, you're cutting people out of your life, you're letting go of certain things, you're getting rid of things, and you're starting to let go of the need for other people's approval. That's another thing that's kind of discombobulating when you first start doing it. And you start to look at how desperate people are for approval from other people, and you're like, wow, it's like they're all tied into this, it's like an imprisonment. It's a control factor. I don't know what to call it. It's like everybody's watching everyone's every move, and they're judging everyone's thoughts and movements, and what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Oh, I'm going to tell so-and-so. It's a really weird, when you look back, like, God, it's so weird. Versus just accepting see, when you accept yourself, you can accept others for who they are. It's a very freeing experience. Before I forget to mention it, you start to look at life in a different light where you start doing what you want. And the financial things start to open up because you've opened up, and all of a sudden you start to get better ideas, bigger ideas. And not only that, but these are things that excite you and they become fun to do. Instead of it being a series of goals that you have to achieve, that you have to meet in a certain, and listen to the word deadline, that puts a massive stress. It's all of a sudden like, wow, like this is so fun. Hey, let's get together tomorrow and let's do this. All right, I've got a really good example. When we were kids living in Wisconsin, across the street were two friends. And they had this like extra garage to their, like they had the house, this big mansion that the dad was the president of the bank, by the way, so they kind of had money. And they had this like big garage that was basically a house, and there was like living quarters on top, but no one had lived there for many, many, many years. And so it's kind of like storage a little bit. And so we were playing around one day, and Halloween was coming up. So us three little kids, we went to the hardware store and, hey, let's get some rope. Let's get a couple of pulleys. Let's make, grab some old sheets that were about to be thrown away, and let's stuff some things and make eyes with a marking pen and colored markers and this and that. And let's get some flashlights. And then there was little like blinking lights you could buy at the hardware store. And all of a sudden we set this whole thing, this pulley system where ghosts were going across the room and across the second room. And we put an old mattress down for like this small room. People had to walk through it and it'd be like spongy. And we did this whole thing, and like we kind of got caught up in it. We didn't really know what we were doing. And we had spent 2 or 3 weeks or something, I forget how long. And finally the mother goes like, what are you guys doing in there? Because they noticed like, hey mom, can we have a sheet for this? Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we borrow this? Are you going to throw that away? And after a while they came like, wow. And their mother just like, oh, we got to put this in the paper. So she put a little, it wasn't even an ad. It was just like, I don't know what it was. It was a little like probably 2-inch by 2-inch thing that said, haunted house on such and such address. On these dates. I think we did it 4 days or 5 days or maybe a week. I forget how long we did it. And we were charging, like back then, I don't know, $1 or 50 cents or something. And here's the really weird thing. My friends called me up before it was dark. Mike, get over here. I'm like, why? They're like, look out your window. There was a line. Now their house was so big, their property was so big, it took up about 2/3 of the block, all the way down to the corner of their house, and then around the block all the way down to the next block. And I was like, what are they doing here? And they're like, it's from the ad. So if I remember right, the report, I don't know if it was the first night or if they came before and they made an article, but eventually they made an article. They may have actually made an article is what it was. And so all of a sudden there was a ton of people, and we're like, what? Like, what the heck? Like, it was like we barely did anything. It wasn't like we marketed and advertised. It was just like this one kind of thing we did, and a reporter made an article. All of a sudden there was a ton of people. And it all started with 3 kids just being bored. And we started to have fun. We just kind of, literally, we let our imaginations run wild. And that's the way you're supposed to be now. You forgot that. Go back to that. So what I'm saying is this whole thing of going into the narcissist abuse, going into the dark night of the soul, or going into the isolation phase, etc., what I call the Great Wall of China, it comes full circle. You're starting to become yourself. That's what this is all about. That's what, not only symbolically, but it's physically and literally what you're doing. You're coming back into yourself. The Great Wall of China. You are becoming you. Because you forgot yourself a long time ago. So you go through a phase of 3-4 years or whatever it is of not being motivated. Suddenly you don't care about working hard to have the biggest home on the block, or have the greatest car, or whatever it is, or have the perfect relationship. Suddenly you're just like, I just want to be happy. And you start doing things that make you happy. And everyone around you is like, well, I don't understand. They don't have a nice car. They don't have this. They don't have that. Yeah, and they also don't have the misery that goes along with that. Now, here's what I'm saying. Just like those 3 little kids, all by ourselves we did that. The only thing the mother did is she came out and looked and walked around. Like, oh my God, like it was impressive. The only thing she did was call the newspaper and put a little ad out. And then the newspaper reporter came out and they made the article, and boom. Other than that, we did everything. So finding yourself, going back to who you are, will cause you to be inspired by life and motivated and excited, enthusiastic about what you want to do, and putting that effort and energy into that. And that will be in what we call alignment, and everything else outside of the internal will fall into place. That's the way it works. When you do a job that you don't love, people can feel it. It's really obvious. Like, you're just doing it to make money. You put up with it. You bitch, you moan, you complain. When you buy a car because like, well, I want this car to make me look a certain way in front of other people. People can see that. People can feel that. It's really obvious. So people aren't going to go to your show or go to your whatever or give you a raise or give you a better job because you're not doing the job because you want to do it. You're doing it because, well, you want to buy a nicer car and you want to impress your friends. You're doing all this external stuff. And when 30 or 40 years have gone by, you stop, you look back like, man, I've been miserable for 30 or 40 years doing something I don't love or being in a relationship that I'm not happy with. Get out. Do what you love. Be with someone who you love, who loves you in return. Be happy. Find your happiness. Create your happiness. That's where your focus should be. Do what you love. If you want to go to the beach, go to the beach. Everything that I've done in life that I was meant to do, and that was the time for me to do it, everything fell into place. The right coach showed up, the right team showed up, the right place. We moved somewhere, boom, literally, I fit perfectly in this position in the team. Everything worked out somehow, some way. It's because the energy is there, the enthusiasm is there, and people feel it, and then people want to get involved. If there's something that you really love in life, do it. Even if you're not making a dime, even if things aren't working out. But here's the thing. If you're doing it to impress people, to get people to look at you like, oh, I'm special, that's not the right thing. You know how you know? Because you can't stop doing it. It's like even if I was working another job full time, I would still be reading books, going to weekend seminars, going over my home study programs and my notes on NLP, hypnosis, energy healing, etc. because I love it. This is what I love. And right now, things are falling into place. This is the time. It's becoming fun. Well, I hope this video helped you. If you got this far along, I'd be really surprised. It's a long video. God bless you guys. I hope this video helped you. If you did, please click the like, click subscribe button. Go ahead and make a comment. And if you want, you can go ahead and make a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box. All right. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.